Good afternoon and welcome to the town of Surf City. We're going to call this meeting to order, and no better way than do it than to start it off with a prayer from Pastor Bobby Owens from the gathering. If you would please stand.
All right, join me as we give thanks. Father, indeed, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to just enjoy your blessing. Because, God, we live in a place that is beautiful, and I often refer to it as this sanctuary of your creation. And so we thank you for that, God. And we thank you for the community that we live in, the people that make it up. We thank you for them. We thank you for all the town staff and the directors and the people who serve us in so many ways. And God, we thank you for our town council and our mayor and those who direct and guide the affairs of the city. We thank you, God, for all that we get to enjoy here. So, God, my prayer tonight is God, help us to do that which pleases you. God, we ask that our will would be bent to your will, that, God, we would serve you well. God, that we would love one another the way you've told us to. God, I pray you bless this council and the mayor as they go through the items for the work session tonight and give them wisdom. Give them guidance and direction, and we thank you for it all. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, I want to say welcome tonight, and I want to start off by introducing our new police chief. So it is my privilege to introduce our new Chief of Police, William Bill Nass. Chief Nass is no stranger to Eastern North Carolina. He grew up in Lenoir County and graduated from South Lenoir High School in 1997. After spending much of his career serving communities in Florida, he had the opportunity to return home and serve the people of this region, a connection that makes this moment especially meaningful. Chief Nass brings more than 2 decades of law enforcement experience to Surf City. He began his career in 2000 with the Castleberry Police Department in Florida and steadily rose through the ranks, most recently serving as a captain. During his career, he held leadership responsibilities in both the Operations Bureau and Support Services Bureau, gaining extensive experience in personnel management, police operations, resources, and specialized functions. His commitment to professionalism, development, and equal impression. Chief Nass is a graduate of the FBI National Academy and earned his law degree while continuing his career in law enforcement. He is licensed to practice law in Florida and before the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Florida. That combination of law enforcement experience and legal education gives him a unique perspective as a leader. But beyond the badges, the titles, and the accomplishments, Chief Nass is first and foremost a family man. His 20-year-old son, known as Little Bill, is serving in the United States Army and currently stationed at Fort Carson, Colorado. Chief Nass moved here with Ashley and their 2 children, Brady and Briley. Throughout his career, Chief Nass has demonstrated a commitment to professionalism, accountability, strong leadership, and treating every person with dignity and respect. Just as importantly, he understands that effective policing is built on trust, and that strong relationships between law enforcement and the community are essential to keeping a community safe. Those qualities, along with experience and commitment to community-oriented policing, will serve Surf City as well as our police department begins this next chapter. Chief Nass, we are proud to have you here, and we look forward to your leadership, your experience, and your dedication, your willingness to bring what you are willing to bring to the Surf City Police Department and to our community. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our new police chief, William Bill Nass.
think so.
I state your name.
I, William Nass,
Do solemnly and sincerely swear
do solemnly and sincerely swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities which are
and authorities which are
or may be established for the government thereof,
or may be established for the government thereof,
and that I will endeavor to support,
and that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend
maintain, and defend
the Constitution of said state,
the Constitution of said state,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States,
to the best of my ability and knowledge,
to the best of my ability and knowledge.
so help me God.
So help me God.
I'm gonna ask, our council if they would come down and stand with us, and we're gonna take a photo with the new chief. Thank you. You want one? And, yeah, we're gonna allow our attorney to join us.
Fit everybody in?
I was gonna say. Yeah. Got it. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks for having me. Should I do a little speech?
Yes, you should.
Yeah, speech.
I just want to thank each and every one of you that's here in the room tonight, sharing this really special, important moment in my life with me, and even if you're watching online, thank you as well. This is a dream come true for me to come back home to North Carolina and to work here in Surf City. I can't wait to take all my experience and all my skills and abilities and things I've learned and bring them here and share them with you and contribute to the safety and well-being and growth of the town of Surf City. I've been extremely impressed since I've been here with the personnel at the police department and the team that Kyle has built with the other department heads. Everybody's been very friendly, welcoming, teaching me, learning, willing to helping hand at any time. And to join a team like that means an awful lot to me, and I think I'm going to fit in well. I pledge to you all, as much as you've supported me, that I'll support you, and I'll be a good partner, I'll be a good colleague, and I've only been here 3 weeks, but it's already been phenomenal, and I can't wait till I get to 6 weeks and 6 months and a year, and I just get up to speed. I've been out in the community a few times, all the citizens and all the visitors, and everybody's just been so welcoming, and it's really hard, it just touches me, and I don't want to cry or anything, but I'm proud to be here, and proud to be for my family, and then I'm really grateful for the leadership of the council and all you've done and will continue to do to make this place even better. And just in closing, man to Kyle, I just want to thank him for this opportunity and his faith and confidence in me. And I think we're going to make a great team, and we're going to do a lot of good things. So, looking forward to the future, everybody, and thank you for having me.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 1 is the facilities expansion project update. Public comments. We do have one public, well, AJ Hempfield did sign up, but it is my understanding that he is also, when he signed up to speak on the traffic study. Correct? So you do not want to speak during public comment. The next item is Joe Massini.
So bump that up. Just kidding, I'm not. It's only 3 minutes. My name is Joe Massini. I live over in 211 Triton Lane. I am a retired federal law enforcement officer, so now I can tell you my address. Last time I came here, you guys wanted my address. I was giving you my address. But anyways, I'm here to talk about a group, an organization that I belong to. Madam Mayor, Council, thank you so much for allowing me to come up here. From September 11th to September 13th, members of the Smoke and Shields North Carolina will be hiking 55 miles on the beaches of North Topsail, Surf City, and Topsail to raise awareness of law enforcement suicide. Smoke and Shields was started in 2015 in New York by a group that had gathered to grieve the loss of a fellow officer killed in the line of duty. They shared a conversation and a cigar or two. It was such a good time, in fact, that the group began to meet every month, and the Smoke and Shields was born. Hence Smoke and Shields, cigars. That's kind of where it came from. We now have about 13 chapters throughout the United States, and we help provide financial assistance to law enforcement professionals, service members, and their families. The North Carolina chapter of Smoke and Shields was established in 2018, and they then started the Survive the 55 hike. At the time, research showed that every 55 hours in 2018, a law enforcement officer took their own life. This event begins Friday, September 11th at the north end of North Topsail Beach with a prayer service around 6 a.m. and the group then hikes 22 miles south. Saturday the 12th, they meet at the south end in Topsail and they hike the other direction, 22 miles north. On Sunday, they finish out the hike from the North Topsail Pier. They hike 11 miles south and they exit the Roland Avenue beach access, and they're escorted by the fire department and Surf City Police Department of Soundside Park to begin their closing ceremonies. And the hike is called the Survive the 55 Law Enforcement Suicide Awareness Hike. This Sunday, actually, in Surf City at Gilligan's Bar, they're hosting us for a fundraiser from 4 to 7. I'm here to invite everyone out to come out and learn. If you're on TV watching, and the council and everyone in the audience, come out and learn more about the Smoke and Shields in North Carolina and our hike. There's going to be, it's a great cause with great people. There will be free food and live entertainment by 3 Chord Corey. Our Smoke and Shields Facebook page is Smoke and Shields North Carolina. Survive the 55 Law Enforcement Suicide Awareness Hike is our Facebook page for the hike. And our website is smokeandshieldsnorthcarolina.org. During the hike, we'll be posting updates on Surf City Out and About Facebook page. Thanks to Daniel Blevins for doing that for us, allowing us to post. And our Facebook page, Smoke and Shields North Carolina. If you have any questions, I'll be sitting down there, depending upon how long I want to stay. But thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everyone, please go to Gilligan's on Sunday. Okay, so next item number 1 is facilities expansion project update, and our brothers from DR Reynolds are with us tonight.
Madam Mayor, Council, it's great to be back. We are, as you know, I think David Price and his crew are living at the pub building. It's done. We're waiting on the last of our invoices to come in to make sure that we can close it out where we fell. Everything is still where we were last month financially on that project. And I think Nate's going to talk a little bit about when he thinks we'll be done across the street. For the fire department, the same way, we're waiting on the last of the invoices to close that out. The only thing that I have to say is on the 3 annex or the 3 auxiliary buildings out at the public building, we've only got 2 things bought out, which are the grading and the metal buildings. There's about $44,000 in savings there. So it started off right. Let's hope for good dirt and we don't have too many trees of the wrong species, and we'll move forward. I'll let Nate talk to you about
They're the right
schedule.
species, that's why
The
we're
right
protecting
species,
them, Bob.
yes.
Madam Mayor, Council. Yeah, great finish at Public Utilities Building, Station 25. We have some finishing touches for Chief, and we're going to get those done within the next week. We'll be calling for a CO on that project as well. We've cut in our construction entrance for Pub Phase 2 and started clearing and grading today. So we've got a lot of civil work to do, a lot of grading to do on that project. Right now, what we're trying to do is get a laydown area cut in, because we have your pre-engineered metal buildings being delivered September 2nd and 3rd. We've got 9 trucks coming in. So we'll have everything there to do what we need to do for the next few months. So any questions, let me know.
Good job, D.R. Reynolds.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, item number 2, bicycle and pedestrian plan update. And Jeremy Smith, our Surf City Town Planner, will lead us in discussion.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. As promised last month, I'll be back monthly at work sessions providing an update on the bicycle and pedestrian plan update process and progress. Again, this is a project that's being funded through a NCDOT IMD planning grant and is being led by our consultant, Moffett and Nickel. We held our first steering committee on August 6th. The committee includes 2 members of the planning board, 2 members of the multi-use path committee, and 2 members of the Parks and Rec advisory board. They, along with staff, a representative from our regional planning organization, Cape Fear Council of Government, and NCDOT, participated in a meeting reviewing the project's purpose, the schedule, existing conditions across the town in regard to sidewalks, multi-use path, and bicycle access. During that meeting, the committee, along with other attendees, participated in a project visioning and goals activity covering connectivity, safety, ecotourism, recreation, and resilience, and started mapping opportunities and constraints across the town, including gaps in our multi-use path system, connections to the East Coast Greenway, and Mountains to Sea Trail. We also identified areas where flooding and roadway speeds present challenges to future facilities. Over the next 2 months, the design team will conduct additional field inventory with town staff, launch a public survey during the month of September, and carry out a stakeholder interviews as identified, working with town staff and other town departments, state agencies, and multimodal transportation nonprofits identified by NCDOT. The second steering committee meeting is scheduled for October 28th, immediately followed the next day by a public open house here at Town Hall on October 29th, where the team will present and refine draft recommendations based on this input over the next 2 months. A draft plan is targeted for the late fall, with final plan expected next summer. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board may have. One additional thing, working with the public information officer, we will be putting up a special projects page that the public, council, and staff can follow for routine updates and input on the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Damian Buchanan is the chair of that committee.
We do not have a chair for the steering committee. It only has 3 meetings. It is not a formal committee in that it would need a chair or vice chairman. We just follow the lead of our consultant.
So are they open public meetings or?
Absolutely. Anyone,
Okay, so we will have minutes and agendas?
yes, we will. My staff is working on minutes, and they'll be provided, and we will have them, and I can share those with the board in future updates.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is item number 3, ordinance amendment, chapter 4, and Kyle will present.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council and members of the public. Infamous Chapter 4 is back in front of you. Did have a couple of minor edits that I wanted to kind of go over. We can vote on it if the board wants to, or if you're not comfortable with it, we can move this on. First one is just grammatical in nature, comes through. Let me see, 451 L
and that's just changing a or to, or excuse me, an of to an or. Had some discussion with Councilman Pleil about protected speech and First Amendment rights. So I'd kind of defer any of those comments back to the attorney. The next item was some context surrounding possession of firearms over in Soundside Park that is not listed specifically within the ordinance. I don't know what the context of that would have been or the intent. The only thing I can think of is if there was ever discussion in the past about how the boat ramp is used for hunting or some other purpose, but that is not listed in the ordinance. And then also too, what we had talked about at the last meeting under subsection T, which falls under that same larger section, is we had a conversation about dusk to dawn that was provided in the ordinance, and what staff had gone back and said that enter, use, or remain within any park between the hours of 11 p.m. And dawn without a written permit issued by the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism Department, except when accessing designated boat ramps and kayak launches, and that stemmed from the conversation that we had for people that may use the boat ramp prior to the dawn hour. So that's where that language got amended before you. Moving into the beach strand ordinance, again, working with Councilman Pleil on a couple of these things throughout this process. The main, really, the overall change that we looked at was trying to clean up some language that had to reference around a perimeter and how we would sort of measure that and enforceability when it had to do with beach equipment from the public beach access. So that language did get changed to reflect 25 feet from any emergency access or public beach access for people setting up beach equipment. Essentially covering the same standards or of concern that we would have had with it. The other things were just cleaning up some other language, talking about leaving equipment on a crossover, especially if it's a private crossover. You know, you can have a chair or a tent or whatever. You can put that on your crossover. And then making sure that we had language in there that did not promote even if you're a property owner, the destroying of dunes, because the language was a little strange in there. But other than that, I'll open it up for any questions or comments that the board may have. And if you would like to move forward with anything or with these recommended changes, we can certainly make those and have those prepared for you for next meeting.
Is there any further discussion?
I think there's still a little bit of cleanup to do, Kyle. If we can, just you and I get together at some point in time before the September 1st meeting, and there are a couple of minor edits in there, and I have a couple of questions. I don't want to belabor tonight's meeting with going through them one by one, I think. And then we'll do that, and then the council will have a chance to look at it. We'll just clean it up and vote on it then on the 1st. If that works for everybody else, unless you want me to go through some of the other questions.
And what I'll do is, if that's okay with the board, we can provide a synopsis on each of the items so that you are aware of what the changes are and why those changes may have been made. And I would suspect we'll probably have some conversation with Mr. DeSelms down there too.
Yeah, that would be good.
So at this time, we do not have consensus on the ordinance amendment. We will bring those back. You will bring those back to us at the workshop or the September 1st meeting?
Yeah, I think we can probably cover by the September 1st, if you're okay with that, Councilman, and then
I think, yeah, that's a great target. That way, and it's just a few little things. Sure. This is a really good document, and I think Frank had a lot to do with that, and certainly Kyle, you. And so just a couple of small things, some clarifications, and we'll be good to go.
Great.
We'll add that to old business, Madam Mayor, and not consent.
Yes, sir. Item number 4, ordinance amendment, Chapter 17, and Kyle will present.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council, again, members of the public. And also, too, I just want to recognize Patty, who's in the audience here with us. She does serve on our Multi-Use Path Steering Committee, which is different than our Bike and Ped Steering Committee. The Multi-Use Path Steering Committee's Subcommittee on Ordinance Updates has been meeting to discuss revisions to the town code to regulate usage along existing and future multi-use path segments within the town of Surf City. Key to this effort was the lack of direct authority for the town to be able to regulate electric-assisted bicycles on sidewalks and multi-use paths. On July 7th, 2026, North Carolina House Bill 1094 was approved, providing this authority to cities and counties to regulate within the municipal limits. With this authority, the town may consider regulations to provide consistency within the jurisdiction, regardless of operation on town or state-maintained rights-of-way. Although the ordinance revisions are not solely focused on electric-assisted bicycles, these were certainly a focal point of our discussion. As Surf City continues to expand its multimodal transportation network through construction of sidewalks, multi-use paths, bike lanes, etc., it is necessary to establish a comprehensive regulatory framework that promotes public safety, protects public infrastructure, and provides consistent operational standards for all users. The proposed ordinances address permitted and prohibited multi-use path uses, rules governing pedestrian, bicycle, and micromobility operations, user etiquette and yielding requirements, speed limits, required safety equipment, right-of-way and applicable traffic regulations, infrastructure protection, enforcement provisions, and penalties for violations. The ordinances also incorporate North Carolina's statutory classifications and operating requirements for e-bikes to ensure consistency with state law while providing clear guidance for local enforcement. Adoption of these ordinances will establish consistent expectations for pathway users, improve public safety, protect the town's investment in multimodal infrastructure, and provide a regulatory framework to support the continued expansion of Surf City's multi-use path and sidewalk network. These regulations will become effective upon council adoption and will apply to all existing and future segments of the town's multimodal system. One thing I do need to mention on this is that House Bill 1094, even though adopted and approved, technically does not come into effect until December 1. So regulating electric-assisted bicycles or e-bikes, that is not something that this board has authority to do yet, even though it is in the hopper per se, which does give us some time to have discussion about this. The first section that we looked at is that you have a Article 5 under Section 17 of your Code of Ordinances that addresses bicycles. So what the committee did here is added electric-assisted bicycle consistent with the state law, as well as modified the definition of bicycle to be more consistent with state law. Other than that, it was just some cleanup within the chapter to add in multi-use path as opposed to just a shared use path, which it had referred back to. The meat and potatoes of the ordinance, to get into it, really comes into Article 6, where you have pedestrian, bicycle pathway, and that got changed to pedestrian, bicycle routes, and lanes, and the multi-use path. So it's important to understand that there's certain different facilities that exist throughout town. It's not just the multi-use path. You bring into effect sidewalks and also bike lanes when you start regulating any of these other devices to include e-bikes or bicycles or skateboards, etc. So the first portion of it is a lot of definitions added that we tried to go back and look at what are we regulating, what are we allowing, prohibiting, et cetera. We needed definitions for each one of those types of devices. That covers things from, a moped down to a, roller skates or inline skates, electric personal assistive mobility device. Just want to try to cover the gamut, and certainly new tools will be introduced in the future. I can only assume, and we'll want to keep our eyes on that. So when we start getting into the use of the multi-use path, well, we talked about being allowed on the multi-use path would be bicycles, electric assisted bicycles or e-bikes, e-scooters and push scooters, skateboards, roller skates and inline skates, an electric unicycle, a one-wheel electric board, a self-balancing one-wheel device, and mobility devices. The items that the committee had recommended to be prohibited were anything as defined by GS20 as a motor vehicle, golf carts, ATVs, UTVs, off-road vehicles, low-speed vehicles, mopeds, motorcycles, gas-powered scooters, and any electric or motorized device traveling over 20 miles an hour. And where any electric or motorized device traveling over 20 miles per hour comes into play is that the committee felt that a speed limit to apply to the multi-use path was appropriate, as opposed to looking at separate classes of e-bikes. And we had a good discussion within the committee meetings about using an analogy of buying a vehicle that certainly can travel more than a posted speed limit. However, the speed limit still exists. So if I go buy a Ferrari, doesn't mean I have to drive at 200 miles an hour everywhere I go. I can buy a big vehicle, but I still have to operate that in a safe manner. And that's what the sort of the direction in which the committee wanted to pursue, as opposed to specifically trying to identify what a class 1, class 2, or class 3 electric assisted bicycle would be. And also that input does come from law enforcement or a police department that sits on that committee, and some potential enforceability on how we would regulate that. Also, what we have in here is section 17-160, or 17-16, and again, 164. I wouldn't get hung up on any of the actual numbers within the section, but the rules of operation, once again, the town multi-use paths are intended to accommodate pedestrians and other authorized users in a safe and cooperative manner. Users shall exercise reasonable care and courtesy toward all other users. Pedestrians shall have the right of way on multi-use paths. In the case of any doubt of safe passage by a pedestrian, riders shall reduce speed, stop and/or dismount until the pedestrian passes. Pedestrians shall travel on the right side of the path. Groups of pedestrians shall not occupy more than one half of the usable path width. Operators overtaking another user, passing on the left, providing verbal warnings, ride single file when overtaking another user, users obeying instructions of traffic signals, pavement markings. They cannot unnecessarily block, congregate upon, obstruct portions of the multi-use path. Users shall reduce speed when approaching any intersection with the town. No permissible device shall be used to carry more persons at one time than the number for which it is designated and equipped, etc. And I can go through all these, but really what I'm trying to explain to y'all is that these are going to be new regulations, and I think that I know that there's a lot of interest within the community about specifically the use of e-bikes, and this town over the last 2 years has established legislative priorities in Raleigh, and before now we have not been able to regulate these consistently within our jurisdiction. Another thing I wanted to point out within this was the introduction of safe zones within the multi-use path network. These would be specialized locations where we may want to reduce speeds or add additional provisions or regulations such as the bridge. I think that's probably going to be our most congested area and may warrant some additional input or thought. Also addressing civil penalties, depending on what is being used, age of user, et cetera. A lot of different things get put into this, and I think that there's also a lot of education that has to occur within the community, and we've got to figure out what those best avenues are, working within the schools, having workshops with the parks or Parks and Recreation and the police department. We do programs for bicycle helmet giveaways, et cetera. But what the committee wanted to do was set the tone for what would be regulated through these ordinances, how the multi-use path would function as we continue to move forward, with bringing new segments online, which I will note that segment 7 is, underway right now, and it looks really good on the beach. So just wanted to open this up for conversation and discussion at council. I would love to hear some of your high-level thoughts from the policy side so that we can have a better understanding of what ordinances that we can potentially explore right into this ordinance. That would be, generally consistent with the committee. But I just wanted to, we met several times with our subcommittee. They took a lot of time out of their life and their days to join in on that and give some good thorough input. And a lot of the folks on that committee are users of our existing multi-use path and travel the bridge, and they see things from different perspectives. And it's not all just recreational bike riding. We do have spandex bike riders on there too. So I'm just trying to get a lot of different perspectives on how we can potentially regulate this. And so again, I think that what would be very beneficial for us is to understand council's sort of thoughts on how we might want to regulate our multi-use path and e-bikes, moving forward. So.
Thank you, Kyle. I personally think that, we're coming into the fall, perfect time for us. Kids start back to school next week. We start educating the children as they get dropped off at school, as they get picked up from school, as far as the law that's going to come into effect. So maybe having some events at the park, I know we're having a town hall on October 29th. Maybe having another type of workshop town hall for parents, children to come in, and we can start educating them on how this law is going to change, not only on a state level, but in the town of Surf City.
Yes.
I like the idea of varying speeds too, and I appreciate the fact that some people do have some of these bikes that do travel at higher speeds, and it doesn't mean that they're zipping through town at 50 miles an hour on them either. And I agree. I think education is probably the biggest part of this, and we have a lot of kids out riding e-bikes, but there's lots of adults out riding e-bikes too. So doing stuff at the park and other stuff, I want to make sure that we're reaching those adults that aren't kid-centered with the e-bikes as well, and making sure that they understand all the rules also. So I don't know if how the best way is to reach, it's easy to say go to the park or go to the school to tap into the youth, but I want us to find a good way to reach adults as well.
Well, and I think that if council would like to see a workshop, I think, again, we've got a lot of interest in e-bikes. I think in general, I think we get a lot of folks here that are interested in this, but also be a good opportunity to educate the public where we're at on our multi-use path in different segments, because we really haven't done a whole lot of that other than keeping the website as up to date as possible. But once again, you got to go digging for the information as opposed to us being able to provide that directly. So we can kind of do that. And I was taking down some notes when Jeremy was presenting on maybe some potential timing for some of his efforts, especially with the survey, and might be able to push some of that out there as well. So again, happy to kind of move this at council's desire. Again, we're not in a immediate rush to adopt anything. We have until December 1st. I certainly would advise that we have things ready to go. But if there's a time frame in which we can solicit as much input into the ordinance, because a lot of people look at it differently. And again, I can appreciate the comments of differing age groups because I think they have different experiences when they're on a multi-use path facility, especially when there's differing users that are on that facility as well. So having input from all sides, and we'll need the community as a whole to represent all of those opinions and voices, because this multi-use path, again, as I've said it before, is not just a recreational amenity, it's really a transportation alternative. So you got to kind of look at it from the lens of both sides, is kind of how I look at it anyway.
I think like everybody's saying, that the education part of it, start in the schools and get the kids educated to it, but, the onus winds up resting on the parents, not a 14-year-old kid. He'll listen, he'll say, I'll do that, but maybe he won't because his friends aren't. But, after December 1st, if there's any citations or violations that can be issued, the parents are going to be the ones footing the bill. So for them to understand exactly, this is serious, this is not just a slap on the wrist, it's,
Sure. Personally, I'd like to see some feedback from, I'm excited about the idea of the town hall. I'd be curious what the community's view is going to be on, and really, the only place that comes to mind right off the top of my head is the bridge, but there may be some other scenarios where there's an option of a bike path and a multi-use path, and you're riding a bicycle. Now, and I'm thinking off the top of my head of age. I'm not going to have a 5-year-old running up the bike lane, but if you're a 45-year-old man on a e-bike that'll run 30 miles an hour, I don't know that you can't use the bike lane. You're probably using the bike lane everywhere else.
Yeah.
That's just me blurting out what pops in my head. I'd be curious what other people's thoughts
Well,
on that. When you're presented the option of two, are we going to direct, hey man, we got a bike path here for a reason?
Yeah, and that was brought up in our committee conversations of when we have dual facilities there. I mean, what a great opportunity that town does have those in certain areas. Are we going to push bicycle riders, e-bike or bicycle, it doesn't matter. Are we going to push them to a bike lane as opposed to the multi-use path? It was certainly discussed that may be appropriate in certain circumstances. But if you do have younger kids or maybe more inexperienced riders, that was going to be a concern for right now. But if I recall correctly, it was like, okay, these are things that we need to take note of, and we've got to kind of put this on the back burner right now, because there's dangers that present themselves on that bridge, and I see it every time I cross over there. Drivers that have never been here, or they just become mesmerized, even if they've driven it over 100 times, and I don't blame them. They want to capture a video as they're driving on that bridge, and that is a very scary thing to see somebody doing this as they're driving. Is there opportunity to work with DOT to have some divider in there, visual barriers, et cetera? Perhaps, but that's not going to come into play in the next couple of months. So the committee certainly talked about that and said, okay, yes, we understand that, and that may be appropriate in the future, but right now it may not be. We got to get people used to the rules, and then we can maybe tackle that in the future. So.
Thank you. So, and we agreed that September, October, we have some workshops.
My preference is to go ahead and, again, it's not like Ashley has anything to do, but go ahead and get the public campaign side of this spun up and get this in September.
And then maybe come back for adoption in October, November?
I can report back to council, and I'll develop maybe a plan after our meeting tonight and share that with you and with the public so they know what the expectation is. But get that feedback, present that feedback to the board, and then make sure the ordinances get written in the fashion in which this board is in general agreement with, and then present it back to y'all for consensus. And we can go through the normal adoption process that way. But I think that if we do try to adopt now and then educate and engage, we might get a little bit of pushback if there's some inconsistencies with the community's thoughts on this.
You know, we've had good results with that roundtable approach for a public meeting, where if we can get the multi-use path committee to volunteer to chair tables, we'll come up with a list of questions, get the input from 5, 6, 7, 8 people at a time, and then share them back. So that way everyone has an opportunity to speak, but it's not 100 people in this room each taking 3 minutes. Unstructured. I think that worked really well the last time we did that. Maybe we could do that
for our strategic plan, and again, I agree. I think that's a good format, and perhaps each one of those roundtables is broken off into a segment of the ordinance. So we talk about what should be allowed and what should not be allowed, or what should the penalties look like, and should we regulate by speed or class, and those types of things. I think we have a good opportunity to segment this sort of discussion amongst different ideas and topics. I think it can work. And again, just to have the opportunity to give the community an update on the multi-use path, because there's a lot going on with that, and get them excited about those
Right.
projects.
And I think North Carolina General Statute does a pretty decent job on how to use stuff on the road.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we ought to, I think, focus on our multi-use path. I think that's going to be the critical guidance that we're going to have to provide the community. There's a lot of there's going to be a lot of competition for that path, and having a throttle-controlled, non-pedal e-bike going 30 miles an hour on the multi-use path while mom is jogging behind a stroller of 2 kids probably is just asking for trouble.
Sure.
And that's sort of how that.
Yeah.
So multi-use path, and I think sidewalks as well.
Yeah. Sidewalks, multi-use path are the 2 primary facilities that we have the opportunity to regulate. Riding a bike on the road is, not a whole lot is going to change.
Bike
with
lane,
that.
road.
Yeah.
I mean, that's already regulated by the state, and it has some pretty clear guidance on that.
Sure. And two, I think that we can get some volunteers to, understand what 20 miles an hour looks like. And, I'm sure we have resources. I'm looking at Lieutenant Cowie to kind of help us out here is to, okay, well, we can get on a bike and we can ride and have that speed clocked to help understand and video that and just provide a visual back to our folks. And I had shared a video, I think, that kind of showed it, but it was a little awkward and goofy.
And one of the other issues that we need to talk about is exactly that, the enforcement of these rules once we have them.
Sure.
Because if we don't enforce the rules, then we may as well not have them, right?
Yeah.
So I guess our new police chief.
Well, and that's something that I always talk, Chief Voorhees, and this will carry forward is, having dedicated officers for the beach and the multi-use path. Chief Voorhees is very, very adamant about that we are going to need that enforcement level. And so, yes, that's something that we as a town need to be prepared for as well.
We already have an ordinance in place that says no e-bikes on the bridge.
Yes. It's just unenforceable.
Yeah, well, I've not seen, and I'm not aware of, any instance where that's actually resulted in some intervention, so.
Yeah, well, we don't, because it's a state, well, we don't have.
I understand. So, everything has to be, as John pointed out too, is the civil penalties associated for violations and our ability to enforce the rules if we write pragmatic rules that meet the needs of the majority.
Sure. Well, next step from here then, I appreciate the input and the comments is I'll develop sort of the public education and engagement plan with some timing, and I'd like to stick with that timing if we possibly can, send that back out to y'all and get us prepared for hopefully a good meeting back in this room next month. So.
Thank you, Kyle. And thank you to the Multi-Use Path Committee. Patty's here. Damien couldn't be here tonight, and all the other members of your board that worked hard on bringing this to us. So thank you very much.
They have more work to do. They're not done.
Yes. See you at the round tables. Next item on our list is the budget ordinance amendment, NCDOT enhancement grant funds.
Yes, so as you all know, I've kept you all in the loop about what's going on, and essentially, these are funds that were set aside as enhancement funds from the bridge project. So that tells you the age of the project that lives within DOT's system that they are trying to close out. And we have gone back and forth with our roundabouts and the excruciating damage that has occurred to them over the years, and felt like if we have some money left over, we want to go ahead and make this push, get our roundabouts looking good. And I think in very short order, we were able to do that. That project still has a couple little things left. They're just waiting on some plant material, but in essence, we are footing the bill for this and then being reimbursed by DOT. So this budget ordinance amendment is essentially just allowing us to expend funds and then be reimbursed by DOT for the project.
Do we have consensus to move forward?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. Budget ordinance amendment, fire professional services.
Yeah, so this is a follow-up to the professional services that were essentially put into place on the night, or I should say the early morning of July 5th, as our Surf City Fire Department did an excellent job at response to that fire, even though they pretty unique situations, but challenging situations. We called in CM Mitchell to help stabilize the structure, as it had appeared that there was imminent threat to adjoining properties, imminent threat to the public by potential fear of collapse into the public right-of-way, et cetera. So we are just trying to get this money back to the source in which it was expended, so $7,815. I've been in contact with the property owner and have submitted an invoice and cost to them, and hopefully we'll be reimbursed through the insurance process, and we'll stay on top of that. But this is just trying to make that initial account in which we spent these monies out of whole again, because we didn't necessarily budget for this situation to occur.
This is not a disaster recovery expense?
No, we didn't take it out of disaster recovery expense. I mean, we don't have true guidance on it.
What's the probability of us getting reimbursed? I suspect reasonably high.
Yes, I think it'll.
So really, this is just a bookkeeping thing?
It is, yeah, absolutely. And again, the property owner's been really good to work with. I've been in communication from the day that it had occurred, and I can email him and he's going to respond back to me. So I feel pretty good about it. And we've got good legal counsel if we need to engage that if we need to.
Costs us more for him to get.
Yeah. Keep our meetings short. How about that?
Yeah, right.
All right, do we have consensus to do so?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 7, contract award for the Charlotte Avenue. David Price.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I was hoping to get a contract in front of you by today. We are on an expedited timetable with this. This is part of that original, I believe it was $600,000 of stormwater grant funding we received from the North Carolina Emergency Management System. Unfortunately, we are delayed. We have to the end of the calendar year to spend all this money. We have about $200,000 left over. I was hoping to have it in front of you. Unfortunately, the first time we bid this out, we did not have enough bidders to open a sealed bid. We did the second time around, but we are playing catch up. The low bid was 117,000, which does leave us a little bit of contingency money in case something else happens that we need to fix on the job site. But this money, the first half of it paid for the Seahorse Stormwater project, which was a huge success. And this will do the same thing to Charlotte Avenue, which also has a flooding issue. I wanted to make you aware of the bid and to go ahead and for your next meeting, have a contract in there subject to Brett's approval, of course, for authorization for Kyle to sign shortly after. We are looking to break ground on that shortly after Labor Day. So about a 90-day construct time. The road won't be open the whole time. There's a lot of cleanup after the fact. And that gives us approximately a month to get our reimbursements in. But I'm available for any questions should you have any.
Do we have consensus to move forward?
Yes.
Yes.
I'd like to put this under new business. I'd like to see the contract before we do a consent agenda.
Yeah,
you
and
don't
we
mind.
can put it on old business, and just to a little bit of I think a benefit to us is that the low bid contractor is a contractor that we've worked with, and the contract in which we have executed on prior projects should be fairly consistent. So just to give you guys an update on that.
Maybe bring us a picture of what it's going to look like.
I've got to. Well, I got
That'd be great. That's always,
The project plans, yeah.
You want to participate?
Yeah.
Like I say that, I do got three really good examples out there right now.
Is it like Seahorse?
Like Seahorse, Roland, and now Delmar or Mecklenburg.
Right. But the brick.
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, just,
Same as what we have
Right.
previously.
yeah, just bring a picture.
Site, yeah, we'll get the site plan and cross sections and stuff. We have all
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
And just to clarify, because you said 117, but the quote was 177.
77.
Just in case anybody's listening and it comes back up, I just didn't want you to get.
It's 117. That must have been a typo. I have the bid tab.
Okay.
Wait, it's 117, not 177?
Correct.
Which leaves us with another 90,000.
Approximately 70,000. I'm just shy of 200 left on the grant. So 117,
In
80,000
our packet's wrong then.
left over on the grant.
Okay, and do we have something in mind if this is grant money that needs to be spent or it goes back? Is there something else that we need to get done?
We
Is there
want-
any remediation of existing, or we have to replace any pavers? I mean, anything?
We want to give ourselves a little bit of cushion for change orders. Now, to give you the history of the project, originally the project priced out at close to $600,000. We had to go through redesign to get it this low, and it takes money to redesign it. So if we were to do remediation, there could be some profit, but we have to go into savings to make up the difference.
All right, so.
We would, I mean, if we used it for some, I mean, I trust me, I get it where we're going with this. We'd have to go back to the grant funder, get any sort of additional work authorized to be able to do under the grant. If something comes up, we will certainly address it if we can. If there's an opportunity, I think we'll.
Well, if any of the existing ones need some kind of a nominal repair or cleaning or whatever, and that could be rolled into that.
And all those should
Otherwise-
still be under warranty.
Every one of those is still under warranty.
They are, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We have warranties on
Yeah,
this project.
5 years, 50,000 miles?
No.
We got a 1-year warranty, and every one of these projects were completed within the last year.
Okay, so,
If
you know, if we
see
give money back to
something,
the
yeah.
state, we give money back to the state.
Hey, they're on it, man. They're on it. I appreciate you, boys.
got
Y'all
it.
doing a good job.
We have consensus to put it under old business.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 8, the regulatory sign policy. Thank you, David. Okay. Oh, okay.
Left half my notes. So before you is a regulatory sign policy. This is a policy that we have been communicating with NCO DOT and a lot of our neighbors on what criteria they utilize in deciding when a new regulatory sign goes in. This answers that question, but also answers what kind of signs do we put in. To give you a history of this project, it was meant to answer two questions. We were getting a lot of requests for non-regulatory signs, such as advertising when a disabled child was living nearby, or there's some other examples, but I'm sure you know what signs I'm talking about, deaf child, autistic child, stuff of that nature, which aren't technically regulatory, not enforceable. But also, we get a lot of requests for, I'll give you an example, pretty much anybody that lives near an intersection wants that intersection to be a four-way stop. We get a lot of those. What criteria do we use to justify, should we put a stop sign? Where should the stop sign be located? A lot of location and types of signs, size of lettering, material is regulated by the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, that we already enforce that. But a process for which the public can step forward and request a sign, what kind of review does it go under? And also, a really important component was the public comment. It is something we ran into quite a bit under the old system, where a sign is justified under staff review. We put the sign up and we have one person requesting it, and all of a sudden we have 10 people demanding it be taken down. At least with this addition of the public comment, they have a chance to have their voice heard beforehand and weigh in on the discussion. So just to walk you through the process real quick, it's actually in place through our portal, our OpenGov planning permits and building permit portal. Concerned citizen comes in, fills out an application. That gives them a tracking mechanism all the way through the process. First, it goes to the police. They look through the incident records. Some of the things we're looking for is, has there been a serious crash or fatality there? Is there repeated crashes there? Have there been lots of incidents of speeding tickets? And it goes back 5 years. That's the window that was originally crafted for. They're really looking for the last 12 months, but if they have 4, 5, 6 similar accidents of past 5 years, that goes toward justification. If there's justification there, the police department continues to study. At the same time, the Facilities and Grounds goes ahead and starts looking at, through the regulatory guidance with the signs, where can we put the sign? It does have to be so many feet back, so on and so forth. They start planning that out. After we get the staff guidance from the police and F&G, we go ahead and have a 30-day public comment period, similar to what I did for the system development fees, where it gets put online. The comments are sent in to be included in the report. After that point, the report gets presented to the town manager with the police, Facilities and Grounds, and public comment to the town manager. Town manager makes a decision. It goes into implementation. Like I said, I'd be happy to answer any questions on that, but the policy should be in your folder. I'll be glad to talk about it if you feel the need. Just looking for consensus to go ahead and move forward.
You mentioned that somebody wanted to sign up and then people would complain to take it down. What kind of sign would that involve?
I'll give you an example. This is probably one of the first ones we act on is, I'm going to leave the subdivision out of it due to the present company, but there's a if the speed limit is not posted in Surf City, it is automatically 35 miles per hour. Staff made a decision within a particular subdivision on the south end to drop it to 25 and post the speed limit as 25. The residents were so upset because they thought 25 was too high that they demanded we remove it. And when it was explained to the residents that if we remove the signs, it's 35, and they said that's fine. They don't know no better. We'd rather them not know and it'd be higher than actually lower it, and they know.
Yeah, crazy things do happen. I have a couple of questions. There's in step 5 public comment. It suggests that requests involving significant public interest.
Yes.
Is that a bar that has any metric with it, or?
We work
For
together.
example, I want to have a stop sign. I live in Sandy Ridge. We have stop signs.
Sandy Ridge.
Why?
Kidding.
Why do I live
What's the
there?
speed limit in Sandy
Speed
Ridge?
limit in Sandy Ridge.
It's 35 now.
We have a two-way stop on Sandy Lane and East and West Ridge. I want to make it a four-way stop. Is that?
That is significant, yes. So give you an example.
And by the way, I'm just using this as a hypothetical,
Yeah.
so the folks in Sandy
Yeah.
Ridge don't email me.
The way I look at this is if you're adding signs, I want previously, if you're changing traffic pattern, that's significant. Now, I'll give you another example. Little Kinston, they would like to have more speed limit signs, not Sandy Ridge, I'm sorry, Little Kinston. Did I say Little Kinston? Little Kinston. They wanted more speed limit signs beyond what the MUTCD required. That's not significant. That's reinforcing the already current traffic pattern.
Instead of one sign every half mile, now they want two or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
That's
What
not
about
changing
a
the traffic
crosswalk
pattern.
sign or a pedestrian sign? I know that we have beach crossover and some of them are marked with a little pedestrian.
I think that would be significant because by law, you're supposed to stop at those. If somebody's standing there, that is impeding and changing traffic pattern.
Okay, so we do have some general rules about that. I would prefer to allow public comment. And the other question I have is, what is the involvement or expectation of the council in this process? Is this something that we need to be part of, or we are not going to
Well,
be part of?
the way it's currently written is we gain your input now and we go through periodic reviews. But the day-to-day permits is ultimately decided by the town manager after staff review.
Okay, then I'm going to ask, there's a part at the top. It says the town manager may consult with. I would like that may to be shall, so that, and I know Mr. Brewer would do it anyway, but just to make it clear that if someone calls up Kyle and says, Kyle, can you give me an extra stop sign? And Kyle goes, yeah, no, not a problem. That's the transparency part of that.
Sure.
So
Yeah, we're totally fine with that, and again, a lot of the things that decisions that have to be made are relied upon by expertise and input that's provided through staff. So I have absolutely no problem with that.
and then the public hearing will be done at a council meeting, or will it be separate from?
It's a public comment period over a course of 30 days.
I thought I had read hearing.
If I did that, it was a typo, and I'll get that fixed.
No, it's still under the public comment, step 5 public comment, Andy.
Yeah, it's on the town website.
Oh, okay. So it could be, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It's basically what we do with a variety of things in government.
I have a question. Okay.
Sir.
So these neighborhoods we're talking about, Sandy Ridge, are those town roads?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I did not think this was going to be the deep dive we went on tonight.
Oh, no, yeah,
Sorry, let
so
me get this in,
this
okay?
would
Give me a
only
break, all right?
apply to town maintained roads.
right. So in a public, a private road, does none of this?
No, sir.
Okay.
You put up any sign you want, John.
We have 15-mile-an-hour signs, and people still don't make any
Yeah,
difference.
yeah, and we regularly get those requests, and we refer them to themselves. Govern yourself accordingly, I guess, because the police department is. We just went through this today. The police department is not enforcing speed on a private road.
Right.
They can enforce other things, careless, recklessness, et cetera, but not a speed limit sign. So.
The only thing I would add is if you change that shall consult with council.
No, not council. Just
Shall consult with my people.
with the department.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Not with council. No, because that has to be open
Like
meeting.
with, it says shall consult with emergency services, police, fire, emergency management, basically staff.
Yes, it's transparency and it isn't unilateral. I think that helps. And I'm assuming that there was a part in here where you talked about adding signs and taking signs away. And it applies to both because it's missing in another section. So-
Anything that changes a traffic pattern, in my opinion, is a substantial change.
Addition or removal, and you mentioned it in one place, but not in the other place, so that's.
So, just so that we, and I don't want to, trust me, I get it, I don't want to, not trying to belabor it, I want to make sure that when we bring this back, everything is covered. So I'm going to work kind of from that public comment for requests involving a change of traffic pattern. The assistant town manager may conduct a public comment period for up to 30 days. Would that be okay? If we've, through our discussion, if we've narrowed this down to a change of traffic pattern as being defined as significant public interest, would you all be okay with that?
With may instead of shall?
No. Under the public comment side, it says, for requests involving significant public interest or potential neighborhood impacts, the assistant town manager may conduct a public comment period. So we would just change that to say, for requests involving a change of traffic pattern, the assistant town manager may conduct a public comment period for up to 30 days.
Well, the question is, shall or?
Shall was in a different paragraph.
That's in a different section.
But I'm, same question. Is this something that is optional or something that's
Give the
required?
town manager a little bit of leeway on how he sees fit on. I think May's perfectly acceptable.
It's, again, I have no issue with the shall because it's going to happen in practice anyway.
Your question was more in regards to what prompts that 30-day
Correct.
public comment, which is a large occurrence that
Correct.
changes traffic pattern, not potential neighborhood impacts.
Yep.
So the verbiage there, yes, to change,
that.
yes.
We're okay with shall as
Yeah.
long as y'all are okay with that.
Sure.
But not just potential neighborhood impacts,
public
but
yeah,
traffic
Yeah.
pattern changes will conduct a 30-day, yes.
Yes,
And council can submit requests.
of course. As a resident, you're always more than welcome. As-
So
Your
are you
request will
bringing-
be considered.
How will you be bringing this back to consent agenda with those changes?
Yeah, if those are the two changes that you all want to see, then we can make the update and get it back to Carla. I think we're good to go.
Everybody agree?
Yep.
Oh, I have a question for our attorney. The required notice period for new signs, is that a 30-day warnings only kind of thing in North Carolina?
I'll have to look that up.
All right, it's in here, I just was.
I did look into that. I cannot find a statute that would require a town to have a waiting period or introductory period of some sort. I think that might be practice that we would do. I'm not sure. I'm not trying to put them on the spot, but if there's a new stop sign that got put up in town and somebody runs the stop sign, do you all typically apply a grace period for that?
There's no statute, but it's general, it's
Okay. Okay. Very good.
Technical term is officer discretion.
Yes, okay. Officer discussion.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay, so that it will be coming back to us on consensus with those two changes. Okay. Everybody agree?
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item is committee handbook discussion. So it has been requested that the town look into and consider requiring some level of background screening for volunteers or committee members. Should council want to consider this policy, it may be drafted and presented back to the board for consideration.
I think that's a good idea.
Yes, I think it's an excellent idea.
I know that we do it for the part-time camp counselors, right?
Oh,
And that's an expensive
Coaches,
kind
everybody,
of thing.
a lot of people.
Coaches, referees.
Right. But we're not talking about that, not a criminal background check, or are we?
We're talking
Yes.
about
Background check,
Yes, a background check.
you know?
So there's a cost associated with that.
Yes. For committee, for a background screening for committee or board members. There would be a background screening.
For board members, like the planning board,
board,
okay,
Parks and Rec.
yeah. These are the volunteers,
Yeah, all volunteers.
And volunteers that are,
not council members.
Well, you
Do I
already,
have a problem?
you are asked that question, I think. Are you?
Just kidding.
Do you have a conviction?
Right.
So I'm asking, have we ever had a problem? And what would prohibit someone from sitting on a board or a committee who has a criminal history? 20 years ago, DWI.
Yeah.
They're not driving one of our trucks around.
Yeah, we would put that within the policy that gets written because we have internally, we have this same need. Let's go back to the athletic coaching. We do perform the background check on that, and those instances have come up. You know, something happened in 1987. Well, it's now 2026. There's a duration factor, and typically what we do is we consult with the chief of police. Hey, what does this mean? You know, there's a time separation with it. We're okay with it, and generally that advice is given by the chief. But then there are some things that, okay, you had some sort of violent crime on your record. Some probably a recent drug or substance type of activity. Those things may disqualify, but we need some of that clarity so we don't have to continue to go back and forth with it. So we can probably make things a little bit more consistent in that
The
nature.
current environment we live in, it's essential to do this.
I don't see any risks to the town for the same level of scrutiny that we would have for an employee or someone that we engage with in a coaching where they have contact with children, things like that. And I also have a feeling that there may be some people who will not want to be on a committee or a board because they believe it to be an invasion of their privacy. Because it does, and if you can show me the value to trade that off against the invasion on that individual's privacy, then I can consider it. But with just saying we need to do it isn't enough for me.
Wouldn't it be sort of a liability issue for the town to have somebody, when we hire somebody to operate equipment that Price's department has,
That's a whole different thing, John.
Well, a background check's a background check. If you go to buy a handgun, you get a background check.
I think
If you don't want the background check, you don't buy the gun.
I think it more falls into these committee members and board members actively represent the town in public environments. And if something is relevant enough that Kyle and staff feels like there's a potential for an incident when they are out performing some sort of town-related event, then that makes sense, because it does, at that point, even though it's not like a employee situation, they're still out representing the town, and if something were to happen, if they're in a predicament at an event, then I get that part of that. And we do have, like with Parks and Rec, there are certain committees, and a lot of the committee members cross over when we do things, whether it's, touch a truck or whatever.
Riding with
A
Santa
lot of
Claus.
them, the different committees tend to show up for everything, and they're there representing the town as a whole. So I see the need to maybe, at least we're prepared. It also doesn't necessarily mean we're going to tell them no. It just means we at least know. I mean, that's kind of what I took, like, there's a
kind of guy,
potential
so
for.
I'm having a real problem because they're not employees, they're volunteers. They don't have an active decision-making role. They have they make recommendations.
But there's a possibility they come in contact with somebody that
Well,
normally they would not be in contact with because of their background.
The coaches don't get paid for the athletics.
No, I understand, but there are state rules about coaches in contact with children with regard to background checks that we're required to do, right? We don't have a choice on that. And the coaches understand this.
Or employees, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
the
and
state law
we
is
have
employment.
a requirement for employees, particularly, if they're going to be driving one of our big trucks around, I would imagine we'd like to understand if they can drive. And don't have a laundry list of violations. I'm not that concerned. So maybe you can structure a policy that limits the invasion on an individual's privacy for us to consider.
Okay, so how do you, let me ask you this, how do you do a background check on an individual if you can't get their social security number or their driver's license number? You take their word for it?
Figure it out.
Well, I'm just saying you can't.
Well,
I don't have to figure it out. If you're going to go and do something and they require you to work with children, you need a background check. They want your social security number or your driver's license number, and they run that and they see who you are. Are you really Andy Pleil? You're telling us that you are, but we don't know if you changed your name 7 years ago.
does that matter?
It is if you're avoiding some sort of prosecution or you're avoiding something that you've done wrong and it doesn't require you to be involved. Children or representation of this town. Yes, I believe it does.
I'm going to respectfully disagree, John.
Okay, that's fine.
I think if you're representing the town in any form or fashion as a volunteer on a committee or a board, you should still be held to some type of code of ethics with professionalism. If you're volunteering at the park, any park, I think you should be subject to a background check, especially if it involves children.
If it affects the people that might be on a committee or might not be on a committee, well, maybe we don't want them on the committee.
If
I
the
mean-
question is, should we write a policy for consideration? And I'm inclined to say yes, we should. However, I need to make sure in my mind that I can balance the Fourth Amendment right to privacy with the value and need to have a background check done on a volunteer who's.
How does the sheriff's department of this state handle that?
Maybe you're thinking it's more in-depth than what it may really be.
Yeah.
What are your concerns?
Well, that's the question I have. What background are we checking?
Our question today is to guide Kyle as to whether or not we would like for him to start looking into doing a policy, which you kind of said, yes, you're willing to let him start divulging.
Yes.
But so we want to I think we agree to take the step in this direction with, again, further guidance from council.
So how can we protect the people who really don't want to reveal everything about them when they don't have anything to hide anyway, but also make sure that we're working to notice those people who are looking for an opportunity in areas we don't want them to find the opportunity, so.
I kind of feel like if you got a criminal history, we need to know about it if you're looking.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And the only way you can do that is if you do a background check, not take somebody's word for it. Or if they decide, well, I don't want to do that, well, fine, okay, thank you very much.
So we can all agree that we can allow Kyle to move forward in investigating a policy, and he brings it back to us for discussion.
Right.
And Kyle, it would be helpful too if there are examples from other towns.
Oh, yeah.
To kind of share with, basically the legislative intent of it would be valuable to have, because that's the trade-off we're making.
The only effort we've made on this is my example that I gave earlier is guidance for, background checks for coaches or somebody working within Parks and Rec, because we don't have that consistency. But yes, we'll absolutely pull what we would do as standard process is look at other local governments and what they've done, and we'll compile all that information and bring it back.
And then we'll have to do committee member selection in executive session, right?
Yes, information that might be revealed in a background check would not be a public information, so. And/or, that policy would guide Carla to not even put it on your agenda for consideration.
The selection itself would still be public, but the consideration of their qualifications is something.
I would hope that the consideration of the qualifications can be handled through the policy, and that it wouldn't even make it to this level if it was inconsistent with whatever policy you all want to look at or adopt.
Then we need specifics if then.
Yeah. Yep, that would be the goal.
Okay. Thank you, Kyle. All right, next up is the traffic data assessment. And Kyle?
I'll start
you
us off, yeah. So this is just another step in our journey for overall understanding of the traffic network and a lot of the actions that have occurred over the last several months. So as you know, the town has collected data on predictive inbound and outbound drive times and traffic volumes to better understand peak period congestion. Recent efforts include NCDOT's bridge ramp metering pilot project, traffic signal synchronization, and contracted traffic management services through a partnership between Surf City and Topsail Beach. Recently, NCDOT notified the town that the bridge ramp metering project received an actuated temporary signal, and that was installed on July 31st. What this does is it monitors the traffic flow and backup along South Topsail Drive, just south of Raleigh Avenue. So when traffic backs up to that location, it sends a signal to the light on the bridge to begin running a cycle. If there's no traffic backed up, the light remains green, and that change is from the more sort of static application of that bridge light, where it just ran through cycles, 30 seconds red, 90 seconds green, or whatever it was. So this gives it a little bit more brains, I guess, to it. I've already asked them if they have the data on how many times it gets triggered for a cycle and how long those cycles are. They have not gotten back to me on that data because I do want that information. The DOT traffic signal synchronization, I just received the final report, but I do caveat that this is still draft, even though the document says final report. Exult Engineering, who's a contractor for DOT, did do that traffic synchronization. I've had a couple of minutes to kind of look through it. I'm going to go over just a couple highlights for you all, but you do have it in your packet if you want to dissect it and really dig into it. So what it's called is basically a traffic signal optimization study. Field observations of traffic conditions and before travel time runs of the existing signal conditions were performed over several days from Wednesday, July 15th through Saturday, July 18th, throughout the weekday and weekend for all 4 signals along that corridor. So when I say corridor, they're referring to the Fun Center Walmart light, 5210, Food Line, and JH Bats. Those are the 4 light signals that they're referring to in their study. Their goal was to improve progression along the corridor and cut down on stops and delay times. They ran after travel times. Those were conducted and collected over several days from Thursday, July 30th through Saturday, August 1st. The travel time run data suggests that they were able to improve conditions for some of the key movements. Some of these key improvements included the corridor experiencing no stops or travel time delay during the weekday AM peak period or morning peak period. The corridor across all plans operates at an acceptable level of service, no worse than level of service C. During the busiest time period of the weekend peak period, at least 1 stop was eliminated. Further improvements could be made to the corridor, which I think we all understand, but it says see Section 9 for recommendations.
So, Kyle, is there any chance of having them come in and present some of this?
Absolutely. I will demand it, yes.
Because the report is extremely technical.
It is. And they need to report on the bridge stuff too. And again, I had a conversation the other day. Why is the town doing all of this? Well, I feel it's our civic duty and necessity to at least understand what the challenges are. We don't hold the keys to all the improvements, but we are going to be well equipped and educated on what this
There's
means.
one caveat that strikes me, and I think AJ can lament the same experience. There appears to be a limited amount of data.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know.
Yep.
Clearly, the results show some promise.
Yes. So, and I'll get to that because it does talk about while the results indicate that we improved the operations along the corridor, the improvement percentages shown in the table above may be overstated due to limitations such as small sample size and the data collected. So while the table may indicate results that are exceptionally strong, it's important to keep in mind the restrictions of the before and after data when evaluating the true effectiveness of operations. So then it goes in through what the different weekday morning period plan looks like, the weekday midday period plan, and that's essentially what the lights then get rescheduled to operate under. There's a couple of percentages I just wanted to share with you, again, with the caveat that it is a small sample size, and they recognize that. When you look at the Surf City Flow Labs route analysis, and I'm generalizing all of the time periods, that they did see a 7% increase in average speed for northbound traffic, and an 11% southbound speed increase for southbound traffic. Their average travel time for all of those periods on the northbound was reduced by 7%, and then on the southbound reduced by 13%. Average delay for all northbound was down 12%, and southbound down 23%. Similarly, looking at average number of stops on all of those time periods, they're reporting that it was reduced by 20% on the amount of stops throughout that corridor, and the arrivals on green, percent of those arrivals increased by 11%. So again, the magnitude of the percentages, I think, is going to be the challenge with it, and I think they'd be happy to report that. The recommendations that they had provided outside of the light synchronization or optimization was the two that I'll kind of go over is consider adding an additional northbound left turn lane or extending the storage of the existing left turn lane to allow for better traffic flow along 50 and 210. We already know this. This is part of the 5900 project. And then the fourth recommendation was consider adding an exclusive westbound left turn lane to allow for better traffic flow, essentially coming from Belt Road onto the primary network, which again, we'll already see that with the R5900 project. So at least we do know that key elements of that 5900 project are being captured through additional analysis, which is good. But again, after talking to them, they felt like there was improvements, but it's not the improvements that's going to solve the world's problems or Surf City's problems or Topsail Island's problems at all. There can be that optimization that gets looked at, but I think what we'll talk about in a little bit is once traffic levels get to a certain point, optimization is thrown out the window without additional carrying capacity of the network. So if there's no change in amount of travel lanes, the function of other traffic elements like the roundabout, it's not going to do a whole lot. The next thing I want to talk about just very briefly is, the traffic management or the flaggers. And I didn't ask Mr. Hemphill or Andy to really look at, what's the effectiveness of that. It's, I kind of looked at it through some other tools that are available to me. It's not scientific. I wouldn't put my name on it because I can't validate any of it. But ultimately, we put flaggers out in some of the higher congested or more voluminous days in which we would experience. The very end of June, July 3rd holiday, and then the July 11th and 12th, I think, were the other dates. We try to, bear with me, normalize that data with the predictive drive times, and I isolated that to the routes that came from the roundabout outward, as well as outward into the roundabout, because those would essentially be the influence with the flaggers. Their effect is very hard to gauge, because again, the volumes in which we have seen during those times, it's just hard to move something through a system it's hard to put something through a pipe when the pipe's not big enough, right? So it's hard to really measure or gauge that effectiveness. Where traffic is at a normal volume, I think that flaggers certainly can help, because they're minimizing any inefficiencies within the light network. They can push people through, get through as fast as you can.
Well, they have the opportunity to do real-time adjustment, whereas what we saw just from the timing of the lights, it's pretty much you got a set period of time.
Correct.
So, but honestly, some people have argued they weren't exactly the most efficient in doing that, in that they were fighting each other in some cases.
And I think that they did get better through those periods, and we do have conversations with them. I haven't talked to them in a little bit since we've been on the hiatus, but they're very helpful in at least helping us understand some of the observations they've had, and some additional suggestions. Right away they said, well, 90+% of, and this is just through visual observation, 90+% of the traffic is trying to take a left onto 210. Well, we know that car number 16 is going to block that 50 through lane, so therefore you're already limited in what you can get through that intersection. And there's some things that I think that we can perhaps look at to help with that process, maybe before the 5900 project. We don't have to talk about those today, but it would take an ask of DOT to make some adjustments to build some more capacity in that turn lane, between now and.
Or lengthen the turning cycle.
Yes, on the outbound movement, yes. So again, we can get into that, but ultimately, traffic management and flaggers, I hear that they have helped, but that's going to be more so through visual observation. I cannot pinpoint the data to validate their positive effectiveness. Doesn't mean that their effect is negative, though. That's kind of what I'm trying to get at. And then lastly, with the ongoing efforts that we've been working with is Mr. Hemphill, which everybody knows, has worked on some analysis, and I think that he's going to be happy to present this to the board, utilizing the data that we captured. Again, we're not an engineering outfit. The data that we did capture was on our own accord, and started capturing that data prior to even any of these other sort of projects getting kicked off. So what he had to work with, and I'm sure he'll elaborate on this, was that same predictive drive time data that we've been capturing and still are capturing, as well as trying to obtain volume data through resources that we have, but that data is limited to there is a count on a vehicle in a time in which we understand and we know. No other information is shared with Mr. Hemphill or with Councilman Pleil in this process, because we are restricted in how we're using that information. So, I just want to make sure that is absolutely clear, that using that information or that data in this process was very, very strict in its application. So I think AJ has some good information to share. I met with him 2 weeks ago, I think, and we discussed some of his findings. Very enlightening as far as applying a definition of when and what, but it is really building off of the knowns that we have. Like, if it's a July 4th afternoon, your traffic and your travel patterns are not going to be a very fun time. So, Mr. Hemphill, if you want to kind of enlighten us on this,
We put him on the 3-minute clock.
I don't think that's possible, but yeah.
Yeah, give me the 3-minute clock, Andy. No, thank you all for the opportunity to speak on this. And my name is Albert Hemphill. My friends call me AJ. Bona fides by way of background. I'm a system engineer, system engineering integration, test and evaluation for major weapon systems. That's what I've been involved in recent time. I was the vice president for digital engineering for the Parsons Corporation, which is a major defense company. So looking at traffic and these kind of problems is something that the company I was with had done extensively. We did the metro system in Dubai and did the design build for that. And so a lot of the same techniques we used, that I used here, we used in Dubai. Compliance versus resilience. When the folks came in on the dry stack, they were asking a fundamentally different question than the one that I had been asked to look at by Councilman Pleil and by Mr. Brewer. And what I was asked to look at is really the resilience of the Surf City Transportation Network. It is a system of systems, and you have to look at it as a system of systems. Because if you don't, you isolate on one aspect of the system, and then you don't capture the whole and what the real indices are. And so by doing what I did, I looked at the resilience of the overall network, and in order to do that, you have to look at the information a couple different ways. And first, I looked at combining the hourly counts so that I could look at the key locations across Surf City and say, okay, this is what the flow looks like. The second thing is to look at the goes intas, goes outas that we were able to isolate. So you have traffic inbound, you have traffic outbound. What does that tell us? So what I did is I built a model of Surf City network in a code called Python. So very common use language in industry for engineering, technical services. We use it in space stuff as well as NASA uses Python code. So it's a convenient way to do it. So the analysis shows that we can predict how good is good and how bad is bad historically. We can look at when the network performs efficiently and when it doesn't. So what we found was that the saturation point, we become unstable at about 1,195 vehicles per hour on the roundabout. And in order to do this with intellectual credibility, I did it using a couple different analytical methods. And I swear to God, Andy, I'm not going to talk about regression analysis tonight. And I'm not going to say the word Bayesian more than once, okay? So in order for us to have credibility in having a citizen look at this and have somebody else come along and say, well, hey, who's your guy? What did he do? I did a segmented regression, and then you use Bayesian change point analysis in order to do it. And then ran sensitivity testing so I could independently verify when the onset of the unstable traffic actually was happening. And by isolating that, it allowed me to get down to some interpretive results. The thing is, I'll talk to my wife, Patty, and she'll say, God, it took 30 minutes to get from Publix back to South Shore Drive. Okay, that's a meaningful measure of merit for a citizen. A flow rate of, it was 1,200 cars an hour doesn't mean anything to us out here. It's got to have an empirical impact from an engineering sense so that in CDOT and that the town manager can better understand what is the meaningful measure of merit to the citizen. What is the citizen experience? And that was what Andy really said. You got to look at it from that perspective. So I tried to do that, Andy. The results in finding where that saturation point was really suggest an important shift, in my mind, at least in transportation planning philosophy. Congestion in Surf City is not simply a product of growth, which I think a lot of people here would like to dump it on. Oh, you're growing too fast. It reflects a transportation network that is increasingly closing in on the practical engineering limits of what those roundabouts and the queues, and by the queue, I mean 210, 50, our highway system on this island, there is an absolute point at which you fall off. And on the roundabouts at 1165, it happens. And when you hit that point, everybody would logically conclude, oh, it's going to be almost asymptotic, and it's not. It is a fall off where it just stops. Okay, it stops. Nothing else can get through. So small increases in demand can have little observable effect while there's sufficient reserve capacity in the road system. And depending upon the season, we have sufficient reserve capacity. Okay? This problem in February, March, even May, non-existent. It's not a problem. The moment you get into the tourist season, you're going to build up, and very, very quickly. So once that reserve capacity has been exhausted, any modest increase in traffic is going to disproportionately increase the overall delays. And that's what the data really showed. I want to turn to a second to what Andy had asked me about when you were going through the whole dry stack discussion. And I sat here, I listened as long as I could. I wore out at 11 o'clock. God bless you all for what you did. That was amazing. In their discussion, they explicitly stated that southbound and eastbound approaches experience the greatest delays on existing traffic volumes, and that those conditions persist with or without project development. Okay, I looked at that and said, all right, I'll accept that. That's a factual statement. But the travel time data shows that delays sharply increase once that flow approaches that magic 1195 number. Once you hit that, you now have the onset of an unstable operation for the whole network. And it's felt all the way through the network. It's not just at this roundabout right up here, that way, sorry. So what did they do with their traffic impact analysis, their TIA? Well, they asked about level of service. They asked about the queues and acceptability, intersection delays and what's acceptable. They asked about improvements that may be required under current regulations. They met the requirement in terms of that, but it was in isolation. It was looking at a different issue than we were looking at. What they did not evaluate that I looked at was, when does the transportation system become unstable? They didn't look at that. How much does delay grow? They didn't look at that. Reserve capacity, they really didn't address that. Does congestion propagate throughout the network? Not their issue. They were decidedly focused on Roland Avenue. So, fundamentally different question if one evaluates compliance and the other looks at resilience. So let me drive to the point on capacity versus saturation. They concluded that no additional improvements are warranted because of the level of service. It doesn't meet a material change requirement for proposed development. That's probably a correct answer. However, it suggests that the network is already operating at near its practical limit on season peaks. That's the takeaway from that 1195 number that they don't consider. They were looking at it in isolation, not overall as a system of systems and the extended period of time. It did not consider the saturation that we see in the tourist season. Excuse me. Additional development or adding more will generate more volume. That does, in fact, directly impact an already stressed system. But the point is that their small increment, they were trying to claim would not. And Andy made a very good point that night, and I don't know if everybody caught it. The point is that there's no reserve capacity in the system. Hence, a small or nominal increase can have a significant impact on saturation, which means that when you go through and look at what is generated through the fixed steps of trips, that new trips would be linear. They're not. It is nonlinear. It's nonlinear because Roland Avenue and 5210 are already near capacity. Small increase can trigger phase failures. The Q spillback upstream on the intersections at Charlie Medlin and at Belt cause a cascading problem. It is huge when you start to look at those. The signal timing sensitivity. You add more trips, it can force a retiming issue that redistributes that delay in a nonlinear way. So it's doing this. It is not just a flat line. So for them to imply it was disingenuous. The additive developmental traffic that we have is going to behave in a nonlinear way because the corridor is already operating at the threshold, which was the point I think Andy was trying to make that night. And it was spot on. And what I saw actually confirmed that. So when you look at the comparison of what I have found on the saturation point, the point I want to leave you with is we were asking two different questions. We arrived at a common answer coming at it from different ways. So to an extent, there's a complementary nature to it rather than just contradictory. But both identify that the island traffic circle is the critical operational constraint. We can agree upon that. But the development of Roland Avenue is not the dominant source of that congestion in the period where they're looking at it. You take that across the whole of the tourist area, the time frame, and we're entertaining everybody here, those increments are going to be huge. And then when you look at the Cannady development on out on 50, and that starts coming in, you're going to hit your 1165 very quickly in the peak season. That's the constraint. When you start to hit that amount in the circle, we're broken. And it's a constraint that NCDOT has to deal with and that the town's going to have to argue with them on. But the fact is that the physical plant for this enterprise and this network is severely constrained. It's limited. And you unless you can do something to present that relief, we're broken once we hit 1165.
What does the traffic light do for us? Do we know that answer yet?
I really don't, because of the way the data has been parsed, Andy. At this point, I really can't tell that it does anything, to be honest with you.
That one on the bridge.
Pardon me?
The one on the bridge.
Yeah.
I can tell you by experience, it gives the people coming from that end an opportunity to get in this circle when it's getting very close to that saturation point. 'Cause
Yeah,
they don't have-
pre-saturation,
they don't
I think,
ever
is
have an
where.
Well,
opportunity to get in.
pre-saturation, it has an impact, I think, on people from the south end coming over. But I just from personal experience driving it almost every day. So
When you are at the near tipping point in the peak season, all it takes is one fire. That kid that slammed into at the base of the bridge earlier this summer and had everything backed up. You get one or two of those events going, and then the Surf City guys are running traffic or have another call of some sort, or then you've got somebody decides to drown again. Any one of those events, it becomes a cascade. And at that point in the peak season, you're broken.
Well, and the other thing, and I think Mr. Brewer observed it firsthand, is once it starts, it takes forever to clear up. So once you reach that where nothing is moving in the roundabout, those queues start going down 50 and up 210, and it takes hours before you're back to any type of reasonable flow. So, and we don't have any data on travel times, right, yet?
Now, it's hard to parse that data, for the reasons Kyle was talking about. Because of the LEO sensitivity on, law enforcement officer sensitivity on having the camera data and having a license plate that you can tag You're not going to do an NCIDC lookup on it. I don't do that anymore. But you still have to have unclassified, controlled law enforcement information, and letting out that you're allowing an analyst like myself to use that kind of data would probably be problematic with the state and NC.gov.
Do you have any way to look at the impact the zippering has at the point where just before the roundabout on the south end, as people come up South Shore and South Topsail? Is there any way to evaluate whether or not that adds or improves, adds time or improves time?
Not the way the data is currently coming. Living on South Shore, I mean, I see it and I experience it, so anecdotally.
Well, people parked out in front of your house, too.
Oh, yeah.
Not just my house, yeah.
Yeah, my house is, if I put up a toll gate, I can make a lot of money.
Wow,
but
here's
now,
an
the way
idea.
it's currently parsed, Andy, no, there's not much I can do with that.
Yeah, we would, and that's where I think you go back to, we'll just use the real world experience, right? July 5th, and a decision could have been made to travel off of South Shore, South Topsail onto South Shore, interior of the S-curve, and most likely we would have taken 2 hours off our trip. We did not, because I told James we weren't going to do that. In our travels, we wanted the pain. We enjoyed that. So, it would be the average of everything that is then being able to get off the island, because people are letting them in with the zipper, and you do have people that are getting through that system. But in the whole, I don't know if that, how that may have an impact on slowing down or speeding up. I'm not sure. That's, again, something we've talked about is, is there an internal circulation plan that we could do for all interior town streets that would help flow? I'm not sure, as far as if we're at that saturation point, is there even anything that we can do about it?
We have an inconsistent variable, and that is people. Like, when you get to the roundabout, sometimes people let one car in right there, and sometimes they sit there and they let 4 cars in where the parking lot is, and there's no way, like, you can't look at that one way or another and say, because we don't know for sure who's going to do what.
I've rolled my window down and yelled, it says yield, not surrender.
Not surrender. So I think that, ultimately, that's, we can do this all day, and we know, obviously, everybody knows that we have a problem, but, people are always going to change how this happens, and for whatever reason, when traffic's really bad, people are like, oh, I'm going to be nice and let 5 cars in, but they don't realize that they're backing it way up on the other end, too, so.
When you're already at that near tipping point in the peak season, and you have the physical constraint of what the design limitation is on vehicles per hour for both those roundabouts and for the queue, there's not much you can do. And putting a traffic light on the bridge, I'm willing to look at it. Now, I'll run the analysis again if we get data post running the light. People are going to be quick to say it's not apples and oranges, because the time period I'll be looking at it will be post to the peak season. And I
Unless
realize
they have some data that they haven't shared any data with us. That they.
Well, we don't know when the light was working and when it was not working, and we don't know what the intervals were.
Sure.
So we don't have a control group.
Yep.
So.
We do appreciate all the time that you did put into it. It was
my pleasure. Glad to help,
just
and glad to work with Andy and Kyle on this. And if y'all want me to run the model again with the data that we do get, even though it's outside of the period, it may be interesting. I'll take a look at it, and if you'd like me to look at what they have given you on the analytics you got today, Kyle, I'd be glad to take a look at it for you.
Yeah, I'll just, and I let them know just out of respect, because DOT has not blessed that. They've just the consultant has transmitted to DOT. When DOT is good, there's a whole appendix that's referenced in that I never got any appendix. So that's where all the true numbers will be. But yes, I think we will continue this conversation. And I was going to mention the board next week. I'm going to sit down with the chamber and a couple of local business owners to talk about, is there any sort of actions that can be taken to incrementally reduce, that volume. I don't know if there is or not, but we'll certainly talk about that.
Folks have mentioned if we can spread the volume over the day as opposed to having it peak.
I could tell you that looking at the data, if you could spread it, that would be a game changer. But the trouble is everybody wants to go to the beach at the same time. Yeah.
Public beaches, public roads, you could just
Yep.
Yes.
Well,
we have town
early
with the
bird
beach or beach with a
parking
town.
fees,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah,
If you
yeah.
get there before 9 o'clock, you half price for the day.
Sure.
Or getting our realtors, maybe, or the rental realtors to stagger Saturday and Sundays more.
Sure. Reducing the amount of vehicles that are allowed to come to a rented property, et cetera. I've been maintaining these, I don't want to say random suggestions, but just suggestions that I hear from the public, from others. I've made a list, and I'm going to plan on going through that and listening to what others have to say, especially being armed with tools like this and some of the other data and analysis that we've been able to do. I think it helps me at least paint the picture, and it brings back in that development discussion and the implications of the whole system not in the peak time. Like, I think that's where the frustration comes in with the incremental development that has what is making this failure occur, where we know that it most likely is not, except for when you get those couple cars that get in there, and that makes that time.
We don't know how many times we reach 1195, do we?
Again?
How often do we reach 1195?
Oh boy! During the peak season, you approach it routinely.
6 weeks.
You get to the threshold many times. So the peak I saw was 1365 vehicles per hour was the max rate that came blowing through there for a brief period, but then it backed down. But during the peak season, especially on a Friday or Saturday, you're bumping up right against it.
So I took a couple notes when I was looking at some numbers earlier, is that just from the July 2nd to July 4th, looking at the traffic inbound at 50 and 210 coming into town, this is off island, it was 13 to 15 times that we exceeded that 1195 number. That's just inbound traffic. And then the June 27th through 28th, 10 times. So that's 10 hours or 10 periods in which we exceeded just that inbound number, if that gives you any sort of
They don't
indication.
all go to the beach, but it's probably,
Correct. Yeah,
it's probably 90%. I mean, some are stopping at the Salty Turtle.
Correct, yes, yes. So,
I think it's fair to say that we're going to continue to talk about traffic for a long time, and we're going to continue to work towards a solution to reduce traffic congestion, especially during the peak times within the network. We can't control weather because that's a lot of times when it happens as well. But we do appreciate the conversation and your time. Thank you very much. All right, Kyle, budget book, you just want to
yes, I'll make this very brief. So the budget book is something that we produce after the budget is adopted. It is meant to give a very high-level snapshot as to what the budget looks like, what our expenditures are, what the revenues are. So that's something that we do publish and put on the website. Again, I'd received a couple of comments on the budget book, primarily regarding the Beach Nourishment Fund and how that is funded, and the transition from 10 cents to a set dollar amount, and how we'll look at that. So we're gonna reword some of that. But ultimately, it's nothing that you all adopt per se. It is just this is a FYI, and we'll post this on the website.
Kyle. And then the last item is the strategic performance report.
Yeah, so similarly, it's for information, and this is the cycle in which twice a year I'm reporting back to the board on performance on implementation of the strategic plan. So as you know, we concluded the prior iteration of that with the adoption of the new one. So this report is reporting on the finality of the 25 strategic plan. And again, that's for your information and will be published. There was one thing that looked at in there, and I'm trying to pull up my notes. I apologize.
It was the 1.3.
1.3.
The date, initiative 1.3.
Oh, yeah. We had a chapter 4 comment on there that we've already fixed that in there.
And the question about the ad valorem tax was in there. And then there was one other thing about the right-of-way ordinance. I'm a little confused.
Yes.
Of on again, off again. If we aren't going to do it, I would encourage us to do the site triangles.
Yes. No, it's a project that's still in the hopper, and I'll be as fair as I possibly can. We've had some staff turnover and some other priorities shift. I would not recommend that we drop this by any means, because it is an important project for the town, and we'll continue to build actionable items to achieve. We'll never be able to maintain 100% complete, but I think this is a project that's going to be ongoing.
Well, certainly with the bicycle ped plan,
yeah.
that is going to become a component. I remember the argument for the right-of-way ordinance was simply the interaction between bicycles and people and cars, and trying to give them a place to go so there isn't big boulders or fences in the way kind of thing.
And that's we've been when we, like our utility project, it's a great opportunity to clean up right away before we do that, and it's been effective, and now we can monitor that. But again, nothing that we are trying to shed as far as a responsibility. And with new code enforcement officer, I call him new, but he's getting into his groove of things, and getting the eye to be able to look for this and address things as they come up, or focusing on certain elements of the right of way that we need to take care of for safety purposes.
Anything else? We good?
This is 25 megabytes of report.
Yes. A lot of, you got to tell a story through pictures, right?
Yeah.
So.
No, it's really well done. I think it's very informative. If people really, if they take the time and look at it, they'll see the planning and the execution that's been going on for years now,
Yes.
or at least since your tenure, Kyle. That I think people should appreciate that. Thank you.
You all set the priorities, and we're happy to execute. So. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other comments, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Mayor.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Second.
We are adjourned.